I felt like a flush of lava as it came back through, burning each one of those energy centers open, kind of clearing them out on the way down. And then I was kind of left there in a state of shock and awe on what had just occurred. I really felt like I got electrocuted. It felt a lot like electricity. Then I would say the next 2 years were kind of tumultuous. There was a lot of emotional upheaval, a lot of condemning, a lot of judging, a lot of backsliding, seeing things in myself that I didn't like, not realizing that I'd actually invited to myself that with that experience. That's what it does. It tries to bring to your recognition consciously what you're doing in your experience that's separating you. And it's not about the actual act, it's about the way that you think and feel about yourself because of what you're experiencing that's creating the separation. Had I just viewed myself in compassion and love and understanding, the flow would have just continued to come in. I would have been a match to it. But any type of a lower tone judgment or condemnation of what you're doing in your life and the way that you feel causes a not love of self, a lower vibrational tone, and therefore a disconnection to your source. So you do it to yourself, basically. So that went on for about a year and a half. And then this Kundalini energy is a really peculiar thing because when it gets stimulated in you, you can have an insatiable thirst to be driven in practices and to want to accumulate more knowledge and wisdom about it. And then you can go into a dead period where you don't want anything to do with it and you don't even think about it and you forget that it even happened, sometimes for a year or two at a time. So it was surprising to me that this was a 25-year journey, that this actually happened in my early 40s. I became a channel in my early 60s. And it was an ongoing process of observing yourself, acclimating that energy, trying to get used to the idea that you were not just the human that you thought you were. There's a lot of dying off of yourself in the way that you perceive yourself. So there was just a lot of struggle, I would say, involved in it. And then I finally reached the point where I realized my son had a child. He was probably in his late 30s, getting close to 40. And I was so in such a connective state when he handed me that grandchild, to see my child love something the way that I had loved him. I had this let going feeling, this feeling of, if I never do another thing, this will have been enough. I've said this before in recordings, but I really felt like that was what connected me. Up to that point, I was always thinking, I could have done more in my life. I could have become something. I'm pretty good at a lot of things. I just worked behind my husband in his business. So there was always a little bit of a feeling of, you didn't really do all that much, And so that was kind of a disconnective state in reality. But when I had that experience with my son, there was really an authentic letting go of, this is enough. I don't need to be anything. I don't have anything to prove. What I've done is enough. And it was in that statement, really, that very quickly this channeling experience started. And quite a career opened up, which I never expected at the age of 61, and one that I find satisfying, one that fits into my life, one that is not intrusive in any way, that I have control over. When I think of being in my 60s and working in a business, and it is a business, I guess, to some degree, I would have thought, no way, I don't want to be controlled by anything at this point. I've done my work and I'm financially set from the work that we did in our past. And so I didn't really see that this would ever be anything that I would do. However, I've made the statement, my son asked me a couple of times, well, if you have won the lottery, would you keep doing what you do? And I guess the answer to that would be yes. So it's not about money, is it? It's about satisfaction. And I really believe that the universe is a magical, beautiful thing that wants to satisfy you in what it is that you desire. Unfortunately, we as humans, we think that we do something other than creating our own experience by how we feel. The human has one job to do, and that's to send out that signal in the way that it feels. And then when the universe receives that, it's the one with the wonderful network. It's the one with all of you, the past of you, all the past lives, all the lineage has all that data. It's the one that culminates the really satisfying feeling experience. So looking back over all of that, I could never, as Robin, have imagined a scenario for myself such as the one that I'm in. And that's what's really been satisfying and convincing to me, that the universe holds something beyond what we can see as a human. And if we can surrender to that understanding, what we can get is so far more satisfying than what we think we need. And we could let go of that need. The need is actually what's denying the entrance of what the divine has already created for you in full satisfaction. And that's a lesson that I got in all of this and that I really believe in.
Oh, isn't it ironic that you resigned? We weren't resigned, but you'd sort of like, okay, well, I'm done here. I feel like I'm complete, and then and suddenly
Yeah.
something else comes along to
Mhm.
replace that. Yeah, I've had another guest, a similar thing. She was retired
Yeah,
and her husband died, and she never in a million years thought, she'd be writing books and doing other things, but and yet
absolutely.
there she is. So
Mhm.
tell us about the actually, I have a different question. During that process of the awakening, it was a fairly I don't know if there was a lot of support for people that would have been going through that. So you had a couple of references. Do you have any other, teachers or guides that helped you through that?
I just did a lot of reading. One thing I learned, this is kind of funny you brought up this thing because that was another condemning thing that I had against myself was I didn't always complete things. I would start something and I think, I'd do it a little bit and not complete it. So then I started to really kind of judge and condemn. It's not very good thinking you're going to start something and not finish it. So there was a lot of that kind of thing going on. Oh, maybe I'll be a life coach, or maybe I'll be a massage therapist. Maybe and then every time I would make a move in that direction, I would very quickly become dissatisfied and think, I'm not doing that. And then I started to condemn and judge myself for that. And then one day I got this understanding, you know what? You're not a quitter. You're a self-learner. You're someone that likes to learn things by yourself. You don't like to be in the classroom. You don't like to be taught. And that's really the epitome of my whole journey is I taught this to myself because that's the way I like to learn. And that's the best way. And that's why when I work with people, I really want them to follow their guidance system and what they're drawn to, because it isn't the practice that's actually bringing the connection to us. It's our belief in it that we are doing the right thing that's going to be connective. And therefore, that makes the connection. And really, once those energy centers are open and receiving, once you drop the judgment and the condemnation about yourself, all of the wisdom and knowledge that I was reading about, I can ask any question that I want to and get the answer. I can automatic write anything that I'm interested in knowing the answer. So it comes right through the field. It's not something that you need to get from a teacher or another book, but they are a stimulant. They are something that makes you believe that it's possible. So in that respect, it's useful. It's a tool. We use lots of different tools. Some people use drugs, alcohol, whatever it is that they use as a tool. The main focus is make sure you love it, because if you condemn and judge it, it's going to become a controller of you. And it might be surprising to many that when we move with people that are drug addicted or have alcoholism problems, we want them to know that they have nothing to be ashamed of, that they used a tool to try to feel better. That's what they did. And in their condemning and judging of themselves and the use of that tool, they therefore expanded that energy to the point where they couldn't live without it. That's basically what happens in drug addiction and alcohol addiction. So, it's just to understand that we're all using tools. That might be tarot cards, it might be a pendulum, it might be books, it might be other teachers, but they are tools for a re-remembering of something that we already have.
So tell us about how did the channeling begin? Did you know what a channel was, and where did it
Yeah.
start? How did that evolve?
Yeah. Well, in my early 40s, I attracted to myself a relationship with a channeler, and she ended up becoming a very good friend of mine. And so I had that experience. And at that time, in my early 40s, I wouldn't think that I was thinking that much about doing it myself, but I was fascinated by it, loved it, enjoyed it, had shared it with some of my family members, and I've been fortunate in that respect that my husband and my kids are open to these types of things. And so I don't think that that necessarily precipitated the channeling. However, as the Kundalini energy continued to expand, and as I said, it would come and go in phases. There would be times where I'd be very drawn to sit time, and I would allow that to happen.